Good evening, everyone. I call this meeting to order. This is the Land Use Planning and Zoning Committee of the City Council. All committee members are present today via Zoom. I believe that Councilor Pena will be joining us very soon. This is a remote or online meeting where all participants will be on a video or audio conference. We are holding this meeting remotely so that everyone can participate safely. While we are conducting business this way, we appreciate your patience. Members of the public will be able to address the committee if they have signed up for live public comment per the instructions published on the agenda and on our website Friday. Speakers will be moved into the meeting and will remain muted with their camera off until they are called upon to speak, at which point they can turn on their camera, unmute themselves, and will have 2 minutes to provide comments to the committee. After that, they will again be muted and return to be an attendee of the Zoom webinar. Members of the public were given the opportunity to address the committee with either live or written comments. Written comments were received and distributed to the committee members in advance of the meeting. I understand that we have 2 individuals signed up this afternoon for live public comment. Members of the public, city staff, and the media have the ability to view this meeting live through YouTube and Zoom webinar. The live stream can be accessed from most smartphones, tablets, or computers. For those watching on the live stream, thank you for joining us. We'll now start with public comment. Go ahead. Hello to those joining us to provide public comment. Here are the public comment rules. Comments are to be addressed to the committee members only through the chair. Please keep your comments germane to the topics on the agenda. Any disruptive conduct or non-germane commentary will result in removal from the Zoom webinar. Each speaker will be given 2 minutes to provide public comment. The timer will start once you begin speaking. Then the Zoom moderator, Mr. Moya, will let you know when your time is up. Mr. Moya, would you please call the name of the first speaker?
Thank you, Madam Chair. The first speaker is Consuelo Abeta. Abeta, please feel free to turn on your video, unmute yourself, and your time will begin when you start speaking.
So unfortunately, at this time, I don't have a video. However, I'm hoping that you guys can hear me.
Yes, ma'am, we can. Please proceed.
Perfect. So I am the general manager for the Lepinka, Albuquerque, Midtown. We are located at 2011 Manal. And a lot of the issues that we see in the area are going to be due to either the homeless or the drug use and crime in the area. So we have had several vehicle break-ins on our property. We have had guests who were moving from across country and their U-Haul with all of their belongings were taken. We have been affected by several break-ins, not only to vehicles, but to our property. So we have had to try and chase away people that are in our property. I think if we can push forward with the redevelopment, I think that we can bring in people who are going to invest in our property or our area. I think that we should have the opportunity to do so. There are people in this area who have committed their life and their business to this area, and we would love to see it brought back to its former glory.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, we had one other person sign up to speak, but they have not joined the meeting yet. So that will conclude public comment.
Thank you, Mr. Moyer.
Madam Chair, excuse me.
Yes, Councilor Gibson.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought I had seen our other public commenter. I'm sorry, I was mistaken. Forgive me.
Okay.
Madam Chair,
trying to get in. If you would, if councilors, if you'll have just a little patience with us, we'll see if we can help this happen. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for your patience. I think we're going to try to keep this rolling. So we would ask Ms. Morris, Ms. Petra Morris, please to begin the staff presentation. And then when our one other person who was signed up to speak, if she can get online, we will come back to her after this presentation. So Ms. Morris, if you would, please.
Madam Chair, councillors, thank you. So here's a quick sort of overview of this study. This is the kind of the big picture study for the area. So for this study, the plan boundaries are San Mateo, I-40, I-25, and Candelaria on the northern edge. This larger area study is kind of the 3,000-foot view of, what are the conditions on the ground today? What are the needs for the area? And really focus very closely on the commercial properties and business owners in the area. The study found that this is an area that is significant, very significant from an economic development perspective. This is the gateway for many people to the city. Many visitors come and stay in places like La Quinta Hotel and the Crown Plaza. And there are a number of very long-standing businesses in the area, business owners that have operated out of the same property for 40 plus years. However, this is also an area, as our public speaker, Consuelo, just mentioned, that is plagued by crime and disinvestment. I think the poster child, perhaps, for the disinvestment in the area is when the Range Cafe moved out of its location on Manole. It had been there for over 20 years, and I believe in that location, and decided to move out of the area. And so in order to look at this study, we worked with Consensus Planning as our consultant, and they did a lot of research into the area. They did a retail and business analysis. They did a survey with business owners. They had a SWOT, a strengths, weaknesses, and opportunities and threats analysis. And there were 2 public meetings as well held. And through all of this research and analysis that was done, the plan came up with a series of recommendations to try and support the existing economic development in the area, and to try and address some of the concerns about disinvestment in the area. And the study came up with a series of recommendations. And at this stage, this is very much a high-level study. And so these recommendations in the report are something it's basically a laundry list of tasks for council services staff to continue to work on, and to find funding for, to study in further detail, and to work with the appropriate departments and bodies to pursue. And so perhaps the most notable of these recommendations is that there is a recommendation for a designation of a sub-area within this study as a metropolitan redevelopment area. This study would not make anything a redevelopment area. That would definitely be something we'd have to pursue separately and outside of this study. Doing a metropolitan redevelopment area is controlled by state legislation, and so it has to go to the ADC and go through a very particular and important process for adoption. But the sub area that this study is looking at would be basically the properties fronting Manole between I-25 and the North Diversion Channel. The study also identifies 3 opportunity sites. The idea behind opportunity sites being that if these sites were redeveloped, they could have a catalytic impact on the area. Redevelopment could be anything from industrial uses through commercial, through multifamily, mixed use. It's really about having a use go in on a vacant site that could really catalyze the area. Study also encourages the city to continue a dialogue with business owners, and then makes also some recommendations for improvements to street lighting, trails, transit stops, landscaping, buildings, and sidewalks. A big part of what we heard from Ms. Abeta is about safety. And so there are a number of recommendations in the study as well about public safety improvement measures, and that includes overhead mobile cameras in key locations, the installation of the code blue stations along the trails. I think most people might be familiar with those from UNM campus, to conduct regular field briefings, and then also the idea of establishing a police substation in the area. The study suggests considering one of the existing restaurants that have recently been not abandoned, but have become vacant. That would be a potential location for a police substation. And so that's kind of a big sort of overview of the study and its recommendations. And so perhaps we might be able to go back to public comment if our second public speaker is signed up, or I'm available for questions if not.
Thank you, Ms. Morris. I think since our second speaker is here, if you would like to join us and we'd like to hear what you say, and then we'll go back for questions if there are any. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ms. Jones, if you want to go ahead and unmute yourself, and then your 2 minutes will begin when you start speaking.
Am I unmuted?
Yes, ma'am. Please proceed.
Okay, thank you. The Midtown area has thrived prior to the Big I renovation project, which took place at the beginning of June of 2000. And ever since the Big I project was finished, it seems like there was no contingency plan for the Midtown area after that project was finished. It's hard to get off on Manal via I-25 or I-40. The exits are very, very hard. If you miss the exits, you do have to go down and turn around, and it's extremely confusing. Exits off Manal for I-40 are the university exit heading west, with dead trees, homeless camps, and trash along that north side of the exit. And then heading east, you have to exit 4th, 2nd, and University. When you exit that way, coming towards Manal and University, you pass the Coronado State Park, which is known as a homeless camp on your right-hand side. The beautification, it seems as though, exists along I-40 from Tramway all the way to Coors, with renovations with some type of Southwest artwork. Midtown is in the heart of Albuquerque and is in this concentrated area. We have over 2,000 guest rooms for visitors to stay in. My hotel houses 450 of those guest rooms, and we are on 14 acres. We spend approximately $20,000 a month on security, which isn't enough. The car break-ins and the panhandlings in our parking lot is a constant struggle for our security guards. It is a threat to our employees and definitely our guests that come in and stay at our hotel. With all the vacant buildings at the University and Manal, there's constant pop-ups of campsites going on and people walking down University and congregating in all of these empty buildings. For me, it breaks my heart to see this, because a lot of times this is the lasting impression of guests driving through Albuquerque to stop in one of our 2,000 guest rooms in this concentrated area.
Thank you, Ms. Jones. Your time is up.
Okay.
Excuse me, Madam Chair,
Yes, Councilor Gibson.
if you wouldn't mind, this is the only thing that we have on the agenda today, and Ms. Jones represents the like the largest hospitality business over there. So I would, if you wouldn't mind, could she possibly be allowed to finish her thoughts on this, please?
That would be fine. Ms. Jones, would you try to hold it down to another minute?
Absolutely.
Thank you, ma'am.
This area has thrived, and we have lost a lot of restaurants in this area due to the crime and the homelessness and the business owners just not being able to keep on top of the restaurants. And there's almost nowhere for our guests to eat. We have to send them to uptown areas. We have to send them to Old Town. We have to send them basically out of town to get something to eat because it's hard to get on and off these freeways. There is 7 full-service properties in Albuquerque, mine being one of them. Out of these 7, every single hotel or convention hotel like mine has something to talk about in their neighborhood. That the only thing I have to talk about is my 14-acre heart of the city resort feel hotel. And that's all I have to talk about. And I cannot talk about the surrounding area. And that's always one of the first things they see when they drive up to underneath my porticoshere. And I haven't opened the Ranchers Club, which used to thrive, because people are scared to come down to this area because of what they hear on the news happening at University and Manal, with the shootings and all the things that have happened in the panhandling and the homelessness. It's just impossible.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for joining us this evening. I believe that's our last speaker. And with that, are there any questions, counselors? Then Counselor Gibson, if we will go to agenda item AR 207.
Okay, I thought for a minute you were going to call for a vote. You know,
Counselor Gibson, I would never do that without giving you the opportunity to speak on your legislation.
Well, actually, it's more important. The people that we've heard so far and about to hear for are more important than what I have to say. But I would like to move a do pass for R207. This is adopting the Manal redevelopment study and recommendations as city policy. Madam Chair, we also have a representative of APD here, Sergeant Dane Sims, who has some work, more than just working knowledge of this. He heads up the problem response team in that area.
Thank you, Counselor Gibson. I think Counselor Benton wanted to second this motion or speak.
That's correct. Second.
Thank you. So there's a motion and a second now. And Sergeant Sims, would you like to speak with us?
Hello.
Good evening, Sergeant.
Good evening,
Good
Madam Chair.
afternoon. I guess we do this in the
Yes.
afternoons now.
That is correct, yes. Counselor Gibson, you wanted me just to speak on kind of what my team has experienced in the Manal corridor area, is that correct?
Yes, I would appreciate that, and how you believe that, you know, improving that area, what improvements would help get rid of some of the crime going on, you know, from a law enforcement perspective.
Absolutely, yeah. My team consists of 4 officers. We spend probably about 80% of our time down in the Manal and University area. We're very familiar with this area, and it is plagued by a lot of burglaries and narcotics violations. In terms of what would help this area, I think most recently the improvement of the Maverick gas station being built at Manal and University was definitely an improvement from the vacant building that was there. It's definitely helped out, but it hasn't been enough. I would agree that adding more infrastructure, incentivizing businesses to set up shop here in the area would be beneficial for all involved within the area. Just within the past month, we caught somebody breaking into a vehicle in the La Quinta parking lot, which I'm currently at right now. And today we caught somebody distributing narcotics over at Manal and University. But it seems like a monthly occurrence where there are businesses closing down and more vacant buildings in the area. I believe if businesses were incentivized to set up shop here and it was an appealing area, that would definitely help push some of that criminal element out in the Manal and University area.
Thank you, Sergeant, and thank you for everything that you do on the PRT team. I really appreciate it, and I know so many so many of the businesses in that area appreciate all of your efforts.
Thank you, Counselor.
Thank you, Councilor Gibson. Thank you, Councilor Sergeant Sims. Councilor Gibson, are there any other counselors who would have questions or would like to comment? Then Councilor Gibson. I'm sorry, Councilor, I didn't see your hand, Councilor Benton. Thank you.
If okay, Councilor Gibson, she might want to do a bigger introduction before we start with questions. It's up to her, Madam Chair.
Councilor Gibson, would you like to do a bigger introduction or say anything before we start with questions?
Well, actually, what I'd like to hear from Ms. Fishman from Consensus Planning. They did a pretty deep dive into the research and have put their findings into a report that's available to us now. So I'll go ahead and kick it over to Jackie Fishman, and she can tell
Thank you,
us about
Councilor.
the
Thank you,
research.
Councilor. Ms. Fishman?
Thank you, Counselor and other counselors and Counselor Jones. Jackie Fishman here with Consensus Planning. This has been a pleasure working on this project for council services. As some of you know, I'm a longtime resident of the Valley, and Manal is one of my main east-west travel corridors. I'm intimately familiar with the area, and I've seen it deteriorate over the last 45 years. I've lived here to the point where restaurants are closing, buildings are boarded up. I've seen all kinds of criminal activity just being stopped at that intersection. So I'm really pleased that the city is taking this step to improve the area. As Petra explained, we came up with a variety of different recommendations, including doing an MRA for one of the, a small sub area, but we also have recommendations that don't require that designation, and they extend throughout the study area that Petra described, and involve other community partners like NMDOT and APD and DMD and all those acronyms. So we did try to take a very broad look at the area and found that the area would greatly benefit from some assistance and some partnering with other agencies, and just very pleased to get to this point in the project.
Thank you, Ms. Fishman. Any questions of Ms. Fishman before we call on Councilor Borrego? Councilor Borrego.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I was really, my comment was more for APD. I just wanted to thank APD for the work that they do in this area. I know there's a lot of issues, especially in our arroyos nearby where people have set up camp, and part of the reason why I initiated the Arroyo Safety Ditch and Water Task Force. And I know that they're working on their recommendations, and I would really like, as this study moves forward, that whoever is, hired, or whoever the consultant is that does the planning for this and the redevelopment, that they coordinate with the Arroyo Ditch Water Safety Task Force. So that's really my only comment, but I want to thank APD for working with, I know it's a really tough area. So I'm just happy to see that something's being done to try to bring this area back to where it was at one time, because it, over the years, we've all watched it deteriorate, and unfortunately it's gotten to this point. So thank you for that, Sergeant.
Thank you, Councilor Borrego. Councilors, any other comments? I'm sorry, Ms. Fishman, you have a comment?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to respond to Councilor Borrego that at our second public meeting, Brad Bingham from AMAFCA participated, and we do have recommendations that would impact AMAFCA and the city of Albuquerque. So he seemed very supportive of the project and the recommendations that we came up with. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Fishman. Councilor Benton?
Thank you. Okay. Lower my hand, get that out of the way. As a former resident of the Netherwood Park area, this was my commercial corridor, and it remains for many needs that I have, my commercial corridor. And hearing about how things have gone, changing the access from the Big I, that was monumental. I mean, we had it happen to Lomas as well. And, I don't know how much discussion went on back then. I wasn't here in the council or government at that time, but you wonder about what sort of discussions were conducted with DOT at that time about the effects of these changes. Anyway, my question, I guess, for Ms. Fishman, said you spoke to DOT. I wonder if we could get DOT to do better wayfinding to Manal, to this part of Manal, from the Comanche exit, which is basically the one that replaced Manal, and probably I would think that between New Mexico DOT and our own DMD, that we could really help with the wayfinding and get people back onto this corridor. I'm sure a lot of people are Googling to find some way to get to this corridor because of there are still many very viable, important businesses there. And that would help kind of bring it back, but Chair Jones, I think you and I used to enjoy meeting from time to time over at that range, and it was the best one, by the way.
It was indeed. Thank you, Councilor.
Anyway, that was my question for Ms. Fishman, and just an observation. These interstate highways made such an impact on every city, and there may have been some good. My feeling is mostly bad in terms of losing our sense of place and hurting neighborhoods the way they were shot through the center of our cities. And wow, how can we look at that and alleviate that in places like Manal Boulevard? That's sort of an observation. Thanks.
Thank you, Councilor Benton. And Ms. Fishman, did you want to answer the councilor's question?
Sure, I would be happy to, Madam Chair and Councilor Benton. The recommendations that we had for NMDOT had mostly to do with landscape strips that seemed to have been ignored when they did a lot of the improvements. So we highlighted on one of the pages 3 areas that we thought could be improved. But I think it's a great recommendation to add to that the wayfinding aspect, because I do think I've experienced, well, I know where I'm going when I'm over there, but when I've had visitors come, it is a really confusing area when you're going off the freeway. So I would be happy to add that as a recommendation.
Thank you,
Super.
Ms. Fishman.
Thank you.
Good information. Thank you. Any other questions, councilors? Councilor Gibson, I believe that you have an amendment.
Madam Chair, Councillor Gibson, would it be helpful for me to do a quick summary of this amendment for you?
Yeah.
Councillor
Gibson, you're muted. Councillor Gibson, you're muted.
Oh, thank you.
You're
Yes,
welcome.
I would be very helpful if you would do that for us. Thank you, Petra.
Thank you, Councillor. Thank you, Petra.
So, Madam Chair, councillors, so there is one amendment tonight. This amendment has some minor clarifications and edits. We had a thorough read of the Manal study done by some staff over with Transit, and a fresh pair of eyes, caught things that we hadn't caught internally. So the first item clarifies the premium transit area designation and when that kicks in. The second item makes some clarifications to the major transit corridors section. The third item fixes a typo in the non-residential parks and open space categories. The fourth item corrects a caption on there was a picture of the North Diversion Channel. It's a multi-use trail. We don't normally say multi-use bike trail. It's by definition a trail for multiple users, not just bikes. The fifth item makes some corrections to the standard symbology and colors used for mapping of bike trails and facilities. And then the sixth item in the transit improvement section makes some clarifications and additions to the recommended design changes that are suggested for transit shelters, including the Adopt a Stop program, which we had neglected to mention.
Thank you, Patra. Councillor Gibson, do you have any comments on that? I do see Councillor Benton would like to comment.
I have no comments. Go ahead.
Councillor Benton?
Yeah, I just wondered whether it could just be enrolled as a friendly amendment, if all right with Councillor Gibson, about the wayfinding aspect from I-40.
Councillor Gibson, are you all right with that? And Petra, can we do that?
Madam Chair, councillors, yes, if you could give me a moment to draft some language that I can read over, then I can do that. Yes.
That would
Thank
be
you.
great.
Thank you. Thank you.
That's a very helpful to the study and to the report. So thank you for that.
Great.
Councilor Benton.
Thank you. We have just a minute here. Anyone else want to ask any other questions? Councillor Gibson, if you would like to close, it's up to you. Then we will have Petra read in the amendment that she's going for. So if you'd like to close as to be amended, I don't know, however you'd like to do it.
Sure. Yeah, I just wanted to mention a couple of things. I think it's important for me to say, and for everyone here, council, administration, staff, everyone, that this is not an area that's, just kind of given up. There are business owners here and property owners who've been here for decades and decades, and they're staying. A lot of them, when the initial survey went out, asked for, so what do you like about the area? What suits you? What don't you like about the area? What would you like to change? And one of my takeaways that surprised me is that so many said that they really liked the area. They liked the access. So, we can make the access better. With wayfinding signage, we can improve that. But this is an area that really needs investment. So I've been going to meetings over there for a long time in the big area, right? Not just right on Manal. Although we've had meetings at Lepinka several times. That's how Sergeant Sims and I kind of got on the same page with this area. There's a business district over there that does meet and that is somewhat active. We met with them just very recently. Even the areas that are more tangential to the area that we believe is most affected, they are very much in favor of seeing the city taking a leadership role in re-energizing, particularly Manal and University intersection and out from that along Manal. So, and we've already started. We already started a little bit lighting is really an issue. That was another thing that came up, both in discussions as well as in the I think in the questionnaire that went out. So we're already starting to put in additional lighting on Candelaria, but that's like Carlisle and going east, which is really has needed it. We've had fatalities over there. But we understand that in order to serve the commercial business areas, that we needed to go west from Carlisle. So we're doing a study now between I-25 and Carlisle. And, you know, we will make sure that that gets funded so that we can, you know, the next counselor can order lighting there. So there really are a lot of opportunities. You know, we're not starting with a desert. You know, this isn't scorched earth. But the longer we put this off, you know, the crappier can I say crappy in a meeting? The worse the earth is, the more scorched it looks. So let's not wait until it gets, you know, so bad that it's going to take a really long time to renovate, to re-energize. So that's my pitch. That's part
Thank you,
of it.
Counselor. And I will let you wrap up as soon as we hear from Ms. Morris, but I'd like to say something too, since we have time. I'm not delaying the
Madam
meeting.
Chair, I just wondered if that was a technical term or.
Of course it was, yes. So I just want to say this is an excellent idea, and I'm pleased to see it happening. Since I've moved here about 40 years ago, this was and should be again, all of this Manal area, a very vibrant part of our city. It was different. It had great homegrown businesses, national businesses, all different kinds of uses. And we need to bring this part of our city and other parts of our city facing the same thing. We need to realize the entire city needs some help now. And it's nice to see it going in several different places and hopefully more in the next few years. So thank you, Councilor Gibson. I think Ms. Morris is giving me the evil eye saying she is ready. So Ms. Morris, you're next.
Great. So Madam Chair, Councillors, thank you. So the friendly amendment to the amendment would read, it should be an action number 7 on page 38 in the section on landscape improvements. There be 2 actions. One, revise the title to read landscape and wayfinding improvements. And the second action would be to make revisions within the body of the document so that the third sentence reads, the recommendation is for council services and the Department of Municipal Development to work with NMDOT on wayfinding improvements and landscape improvements for the currently unimproved areas within NMDOT's right of way. It then lists those areas, and then there would be a new sentence that reads, wayfinding improvements should help to direct drivers from the interstate to the area.
Thank you. Councilor Gibson, are you all right with that? Councilor Benton? Everyone? Okay.
Yes, I'll move the
Councilor-
amendment.
Councilor Gibson, would you move an amendment to the amendment?
Yes, I am moving that amendment to.
And I will second that. Councilors, are there any other comments or questions? I think, Councilor Gibson, it is yours to close.
Okay, well, I pretty much said what I wanted to say, but I can talk about this for hours if you want me to. But I just urge your support. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilor Gibson. And Ms. Montoya, would you take the vote, please?
Councilor Benton,
Yes.
Councilor Borrego,
Yes.
Councilor Gibson,
Yes.
Councilor Pena,
Yes.
Councilor Jones,
Yes.
and that passes on a 5-0 vote.
Thank you, councilors. That was a good, interesting discussion of things we need to talk about in our city. And is there any further business from any of the councilors? Then,
Madam Chair, it wasn't clear to me. I thought that
we have to count the
more
vote. Yes.
votes there that were
Yeah.
necessary. I believe you made a amendment to the amendment vote. you'll need to vote on the overall
Amendment to the
amendment,
amendment.
and then you'll need to vote on a recommendation to council.
Okay. So Counselor Gibson, do you want to put forth the motions?
Yeah, well, I had already moved
I thought
for
you
a
said-
due pass for resolution 207. And then I think Counselor Benton seconded.
Yes, he did. Yes, he
Yeah, and I
did.
think the point of order was, I guess there was some confusion because as a friendly amendment, I didn't think it had to be voted upon. It
Right.
was accepted by Counselor Gibson. So maybe we do need to just re-vote on the whole amendment as amended with the friendly amendment and then vote on the bill, right?
I think that would clarify the record, Councilor Benton, yes.
Thank you.
Okay. So let's take a vote, please, on the amendment to the amendment. And then we'll go, just the
No, no
amendment,
amendment.
and then we'll go back for the full vote.
Counselor Benton,
Yes.
Counselor Borrego,
Yes.
Counselor Gibson,
Yes,
Counselor Pena,
Yes.
Counselor Jones,
Yes.
and that passes on a 5-0 vote.
All right. Correct me if I'm wrong here. Now we are going to vote on the legislation as amended. Thank you. Counselor Gibson, do you want to ask for our support one more time?
I certainly do. I just urge your support. Thank you so much.
Thank you. If you'd call the roll, please.
Counselor Benton,
Yes.
Counselor Borrego,
Yes.
Counselor Gibson,
Yes,
Counselor Pena,
Yes.
Counselor Jones,
Yes.
passes on a 5-0 vote.
Thank you all. That did pass. It's a great piece of legislation to keep our city moving in the right direction. Thank you. I see no further business unless someone raises their hand. Therefore, this LUPS committee meeting is adjourned. Thank you all.